How you doing, all you beautiful sons of bitches? It's your boy Backseater here, and today we got Hawke back for another fucking video by Chariot. So, Hawke, you had a quick look through at old Chariot's video here. What did you have to say about it before we began?
I don't know why he's mentioned Worldbuilding. No, I had a quick gander through the transcript, so there might be a bit of a translation issue
Yeah.
with stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's wrong with Worldbuilding.
Yeah, so Hawke, do you agree with this premise that Dragon Age has a problem with world building? Yes or no?
It is yes and no, because when it was just about the game, the world building was great. When it became about the politics, the world gaming became shit.
Yes.
So that's how it goes.
Yeah, pretty fucking much. But yeah, let's see how we go here, folks. Without further ado, let's just jump right into this, shall we? Oh my god, I really fucking hate this soy ass artwork, I swear to god. Ow, that's too fucking loud.
Hello everyone. I've written and spoken a few times about the Dragon Age.
I still really hate this soft-ass voice he has, know what I'm saying, Hawke? Oh my god. Okay, anyway, let's keep
It's
going.
it's the usual voice of essayists.
Yes, it is. Anyway.
Games, but only briefly and tangentially, which is strange, because I've committed far more ink thus far to the Elder Scrolls or Dark Souls or Halo or Wolfenstein or Bioshock games, and of all
Really? You've... Okay, then. It's like, I've never seen you make videos on any of them, but sure, go on ahead.
of those, only two were the game series I was introduced to before Dragon Age. In fact, before playing Dragon Age 2, the only fantasy RPGs I had ever played were Fable 3 and the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion and the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. Humorously, this means there was a time when Dragon Age 2 was in my top 5 favorite role-playing games, although admittedly only through lack of competition. These days, I'd say I favor Inquisition, but have a more positive view of the second game than most people. Perhaps one of these days I'll have the opportunity to write about both of those games in the depth that they deserve. But this essay is not about those games.
Oh, that'll be the fucking day.
It is instead about the Dragon Age game that I like the least, and which many players like the most. That
Really? Really? Origins is his least favorite? Really? Hawke, what do you have to say to that?
No.
Yes.
Out of all the games, even though Dragon Age 2 is my personal favorite, Origins is the best.
Yes.
Story wise, customization wise, gameplay wise, just overall. Even sure, the combat's clunky,
Slow,
but it's
yeah.
clunky. It's clunky though, based on 2025. Back in 2009 when it came out, people who were used to that sort of gameplay because it wasn't as old-fashioned back then. If you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Because quite a few games had still got that. Obviously, you had the old BioWare games. World of Warcraft had the clunky controls at the start of when that was made back in 2007, and so on and so forth. So a lot of people who talk about Origins clunky controls look at it through the modern day lens. You know, almost, what is it? How many years is it now? Nearly been now. 2009. That's 17 years. 16 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Anyway.
wow,
That's like
that's half my life. Half my life.
life.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my god. I was fucking 8 when this game came out. Fucking Christ. Anyway. But yeah, it's like, anyway, it's like, yeah, Origins is like your least favorite. It's like, that is enough for us to
Mm.
immediately discard your opinion. So, let's just see where it fucking goes from here.
Being Dragon Age Origins. But it is also not about why I like the game less. As a brief explanation, though, it's just a little too rough around the edges. The other games have their
Oh my god, you are way too fucking used to like newer games and like modern day conveniences.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh
It,
my
it's
god.
it's rough. It's rough around the edges. It's from 2009.
Yes.
To be honest with you, it's got half decent graphics for time period. That was pretty much the standard of things. Apart from, I think you're looking at your Gears of War and your Halos. That was the peak of graphics. The storytelling's top notch. The amount of content you get in the game is more than what you get in most games today. And I mean, to say it's rough around the edges and it's your least favourite, have you played Dragon Age 2?
Yeah.
That thing had 9 months of development.
Yes. Anyway.
And then Inquisition was just a single player MMO with pointless tasks to do.
Yes.
And then let's not talk about Veilguard, which it turned into. I mean, that was just. To be honest with you, Origins is the most polished game out of the series. The one that actually got time to do everything they wanted to do.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So,
Hawk, I heard from a while back that like David Gator, I mean he's not with BioWare anymore, so it's not like he can, but like he wanted to do like a Snyder cut of Dragon Age 2.
oh yeah, there's loads of things that got cut out,
Oh
which would
yeah,
have
I
made
know.
the game so much better.
Do you want to see that, Hawk, or no?
Yeah, because it'll be stuff that they had from 2011. So
You want to
you'll
you want to see a Snyder cut of your favorite Dragon Age game made by modern day
oh
BioWare?
oh no, not made by modern day Bioware, but if they were able to create the game that they intended in 2011, I think Dragon Age 2 would be fantastic.
Maybe, yeah. Oh well, what
More extra fleshing out the world, more choices, better graphics, more areas to explore, a tighter story. It'd be fantastic.
what could have been. Anyway, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
distinct faults, but in the case of Dragon Age Origins, the combat, while allowing for a great deal of freedom and creativity, has a slight but noticeable lack in the impactful punchiness of its combat, washes of blood notwithstanding. This innovation on the formula would come later, but Origins was focused on larger things. The game innovates a massive world of wonder and discovery and allows the player to explore that world
That was
in a
it.
way
It's
that
just the combat.
Oh my god, bro, get out of here! No, like it's like.
Lacks the punchiness. Well, could you provide, during this clip, instead of just showing a talking scene with a werewolf who's dying, could you provide a clip of combat?
Mm-hmm.
it might have then recalled.
Well, no, Hawk, you're just supposed to like listen and believe what Chariot says. But anyway.
Well, see,
from earlier.
yeah, I know, but the issue comes from the fact that when you play Origins on PC, the combat's different to when you play it on console. Because Origins is made with PC in mind, whereas the rest of the series is made with console in mind. So it packs a different punch when you play it on a different system.
Yeah.
And Origins is about tactical stuff with your characters, whereas especially Inquisition onwards is just about hacking and slashing and Mass Effect style fighting.
Oh yeah.
Titles like Neverwinter Nights. This would set the Dragon Age games up to be an evolution away from the older RPGs that had defined the fantasy role-playing genre, that kind of third-person, usually isometric, usually Dungeons & Dragons-based RPG-style genre. and you can see this in their shot reverse shot dialogue and animated in-game battle sequences. To players who had walked away from films like Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's books, and wished that they could take part in more grand battles like this in the world of a video game RPG, Dragon Age Origins was the perfect game. Perfect is always a misrepresentation. Most people don't think Origins is perfect. Those who do
It is. I don't know what to tell you, but it is.
Likely understand that this is a perfectly fine opinion to hold, even if others don't like Origins the way they do. Many more probably respect the quality and execution behind a lot of what Origins does well, as much as they respect the quality of the things it doesn't do well, or which it simply does less of. For example, I don't love getting grappled endlessly by an ogre during combat,
Alright, then run away and fucking kite the damn thing, you fucking idiot.
No, hold on. Or if you're having that issue, you can switch to another member of your party and do a skill to get you from out of the grapple.
Yes. Or that, yes.
It's called tactics.
Yes.
So, yeah, there are skills that you can have to help your character get out of these grapple situations, because you're meant to be tactically moving on the battlefield between each party member. Wow, I'm explaining this 16 years later.
Encountered today, by the way, going off script a little bit here, getting webbed up and then repeatedly grappled in between getting webbed up by a group of spiders. I got absolutely trounced by a group of like 4 random spiders.
Oh my gosh, he lost
Yeah.
to fucking spiders. Come on.
Yeah, because you're meant to tactically. Oh, wow. Okay, right. Listen. So, when you're dealing with these sort of things, what you're not meant to do is just charge your entire group into battle. So the 4 characters you have. What you're meant to do is use your tanks to take the brunt of all the fighting. Keep your rogues on the edge of the battlefield, taking shots left, right, and centre, and then keep your mages for healing your tanks, and then occasionally doing powerful attacks from distance. That way, you don't get overwhelmed.
Yes. Fucking Christ, man. Fucking casuals.
In a fight that I felt like I was kind of over-leveled for anyway.
Oh my god, he got over-leveled to fight the spiders and he was still losing. Hawke, you ever play... Sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
No, Hawke,
No, you go first.
you ever play Dragon Quest?
No, I've never played any of the Dragon Quests.
Okay, well, alright, well, you know the little slime guys, the little blue guys, right?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
like playing Dragon Quest and you're level 99 and you're losing to fucking slimes. Anyway, go on.
No offense, but I am not the best gamer in the world. It's only because I've played for years and years and years that I'm even half good at anything. But even in 2009, as a 16-year-old kid, I knew how not to get overwhelmed and lose to spiders.
This is fucking spiders, man. Anyway.
Just a weird game, Dragon Age Origins. For example, I don't love that, and I also don't love how mismatched some of the difficulty levels of different encounters can feel generally.
Really, Hawke? Is that even valid? Or like is that even a valid complaint? I don't think so.
The difficulty levels come from the fact that the higher levels you get, the more friendly fire damage you can do.
Yeah.
It really is all about your tactics when it comes down to it. Once you realise, like, oh, hang on, in this area I might come against fire demons. So what I'll do is I'll bring weapons which have like frost damage. That will help out. Or I'm going to the deep roads. This sword here does plus 10 damage to darkspawn. So what I'll do is I'll equip my team with weapons to deal with that. And you've got to plan out ahead for whatever sort of quest you're doing. So I think what's happened is if he's played Dragon Age 2 first, even that still had tactics, but not as much. It's a lot of it's just hack and slash. You just go straight in, you don't care. So when you play Origins, if you go in with that mindset, you're going to get overwhelmed with your difficulties.
Well, remember, Chariot started Dragon Age with, I believe, Inquisition. I believe Inquisition's his favorite, so yeah. Anyway.
A small group of enemies can wipe your party, and then a theoretically much harder encounter can be a breeze, only for you to face another encounter immediately afterwards that causes you to question whether your entire party is secretly underleveled. This happens to me a lot in the quests, just usually that I do before the...
It's because you suck.
The Dalish Brazilian Forest quest, and then I end up having an easy time for a while. Then I get absolutely tripped up by some random encounter with some basic enemies, and then I kill the dragon really easily, and then Zathrian kicks my butt.
Okay, what the hell? Like, you beat a fucking dragon, but you're losing to, like, bandits and Zathrian? Like, okay, legit, what the fuck is going on with you? Like, holy fuck, what is this shit?
Yeah, because if you're struggling that much, no offense, just buy a shit ton of health potions then.
Yes.
And have it and put onto your tactics slots. And this is the amazing thing that when your companions reach 50% health, they'll automatically
take the potion.
Take the health potion. Yeah. So if you buy enough, just do it. When I was younger, when I used to do the deep roads, because it was such a long mission, that's what I used to do. I used to nearly fill up the entire inventory with just health potions, lyrium potions, stamina potions, get rid of everything that I didn't need, take the strongest weapons I had, the best armors that I had, and just stock up on all these potions. So that if I did come into any trouble, I'd just pop tons of those. It's very simple. If you're struggling and you think your tactics aren't working, sometimes you have to just go, what's the best way to get through this? So.
Yep.
For some reason. I do, however, love good writing. Online essays, blog posts, videos, and social media posts are rife with poor writing advice and worse writing criticism. I am not the
It depends on where you fucking get them, let's be real here.
Late Ursula Le Guin, nor am I George R.R. Martin.
Oh, okay, well, you don't want to be either of those authors anyway, because one's a socialist, and the other is a lazy asshole. So, yeah.
So they're both socialists then?
Oh my god.
Those writers have had legendary influence on subsequent generations, even as they reflected back on those prior to them, and have been titans of the fantasy genre in a critical post-Tolkien period. I've written about how understanding the craft of writing can make us better critics of bad writing. See my piece on the ending of Game of Thrones. But thankfully...
Oh god, what do you think Chariot's take on the Game of Thrones ending is, Hawke?
Considering it goes criticism, I don't think he enjoyed it.
Yes.
So.
Anyway. Dragon Age Origins isn't the kind of video game I will need to draw upon my experience with the craft and its study to diagnose with any kind of deeply problematic misstep. Instead, I'm here to answer a different question. Why haven't we gotten another game like Dragon Age Origins?
Alright, Hawke, let's just answer that right now. Why have we not gotten another game like Origins?
What, from BioWare or in general?
Both, let's just say.
In general, we have had games that have been as well crafted as Origins. You can just look at the Red Dead Redemption series of a story and a world building. With BioWare, the issue is that BioWare became activists instead of game developers.
Yes.
That's the reason. And once you become activists, you become lazy. The main thing you ever hear out of any behind the scenes stuff from BioWare is, oh, we found it too difficult to implement all these different things. Which roughly translates to, we aren't as talented as we think we are, and we don't know how to implement the stuff that we want, well, we'd already put in. It's why so many branches were cut off in the next games. even like say the Mass Effect series. But with other people, it's gaming is about the activism, and activism hinders creativity. So when you're just making a game that you want to be a political lecture, you're not interested in creating an interesting world, interesting characters, or anything like that. You're just after what political message can we put into the mouths of our characters. And that's why we don't get games like Dragon Age Origins anymore.
Right.
So
It's important to be specific. There have been and will continue to be games like Dragon Age Origins across the games industry, from major titles that have come close to scratching that itch, to the indie scene which has the hopeful potential to produce games that we haven't even imagined yet.
Oh, the indie scene are also full of activists, let's be real here.
No, what I'm asking is, why have the other Dragon Age games not done what Origins did? Maybe that will make things clearer. I've certainly seen some people articulate this question before, but it mostly gets chalked up to Origins coming out of a different time, to BioWare maybe making a different type of game these days, to the idea that writing in AAA games is going downhill generally.
It is.
I think all those answers are dissatisfactory for different reasons, namely that they don't tend to look at what Origins did well, and why later games haven't replicated it.
Really? Alright, Hawke, like, do you agree with that? It's like, oh, these answers are unsatisfactory because they're not looking at what Origins really did well, or some shit like that.
The thing is, it's like this, right? So Origins had quite a long development cycle where they had passionate people creating the game. Dragon Age 2, as I said, had a 9 to, I think it's 18-month development cycle of everything. But they had incredibly passionate people doing it. So the world building in Dragon Age 2 is also really good. It fleshes out the world that was created in Origins even more and adds layers onto it. Then you get the activism, and then you get Inquisition, which is just this game where the world is an ocean with the depth of a puddle, where world building doesn't seem to matter anymore. It's almost like a brand new clean slate. And even geography doesn't match up to previous games. The way people are doesn't match up to previous game. Even the down to even the fashion of the time period that they have doesn't match up to anything. Then you move on to Veilguard, and well, world building goes out the window because they destroy the whole world. They completely blow up everything, and they change absolutely everything in Veilguard because Origins creates a world that's incredibly dark, and Veilguard needed a world that was incredibly California. So there's an issue there.
Yep.
So yeah, the reason why the world building and stuff doesn't happen afterwards, it's because, well, BioWare became really terrible.
Yeah.
And the people who were passionate about the games disappeared, and all you had left were people who were like, well, how can I get my progressivism, activism into this game? And that was it.
In other words, cheap and easy answers haven't diagnosed the writing problems set before any developers of past or future Dragon Age titles. So, let's begin with what makes Dragon Age Origins unique. Other games, especially those that came after, have the cinematic elements, especially voiced in-engine cutscenes or dramatic, large-scale battles. Other games, especially older games, offer depth in the form of text-driven dialogue options or customizable builds with many abilities. Players may like these things, and they're totally right to, at least in my opinion, but these aren't totally unique elements. For the sake of argument, I'll also be avoiding any allusions to nostalgia as well. Many players probably do feel nostalgic for Origins, but I think I've actually identified something in Origins that makes it different from later Dragon Age games in a way that is probably not reproducible, at least until the very end of the series, whenever that may be.
It's already come with fucking Veilguard, my guy. So
Yeah,
yeah.
he made this video originally, I think, like a year ago, and he's re-uploaded it.
Wait, is it? Hang on here. This video was originally produced for my higher tier patrons for their exclusive. Oh, yeah, that explains it. Yeah.
Finally,
Yeah. So,
to get to the
Yeah.
oof, awkward, awkward.
Yeah.
point. The Dragon Age series has a world-building problem, and it started with Dragon Age Origins, the very first game.
Okay, Hawke, do you agree with that? It's the world. The supposed trouble with the world building started with Origins. Yes or no?
No,
No. No.
the
Damn it.
world building's fantastic in
Yes.
Origins.
Yeah. Alright.
Because the world building of Dragon Age, and of Origins in particular, is so compelling and beautiful to the point that I could probably write a massive essay about even just the spiritual, religious, and philosophical elements of these games as I did with the Dark Souls games, that
Oh, that'll be the day.
may seem like a strange point. I can already imagine how some people will respond. Dragon Age has great writing. The world building introduced in Origins is fantastic. What are you talking about? Yes, it is. I completely agree. The problem isn't that it's bad. It's beyond good, actually. It's fantastic. The problem is that it's not sustainable.
Yeah, well, it's not
No,
sustain. What?
it's incredibly sustainable. Actually, it's really actually easy to make it sustainable. It's really, 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 really easy, and Dragon Age 2 does a good job of fleshing out the world without really hitting on like people's choices. There's one or two which they fail a little bit at, but that's because of like obviously a short development time. They could have done more. The issue is, and like I've said before, BioWare became really bad at creating games,
Mm-hmm.
and like people they would put these choices into games, and then they go in the next game, oh well, I can't be bothered to deal with it, so we'll just fob it off.
Yeah.
So that's the issue. It's not the fact that the world building's so good that oh well, it was too good. No, it's the world building's fantastic. You can easily build more onto that world. It's just the fact that BioWare became incredibly lazy. Just look at the with Mass Effect and the Rachni. They put that choice in to make it a big deal, and then just couldn't be bothered to actually do anything with it,
Yeah.
and just shoved it to the side. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's run through a few ideas to ensure that we're all on the same page. First, for a writer, what does it mean to do world building, to build that actual world? Let's say that I want to tell you a story, right? In this story, a group of adventurers come to a strange town. This town is on the outskirts of a dark forest, its ramshackle rot sustaining a few meager livelihoods, mostly the old and determined who would not or could not make the journey anywhere else out from the forest's shadow. Our adventurers know, or suspect from rumor, that deep in the forest lies who knows what, but further in, or so our characters are told, is a dark fortress, a great abandoned castle, a hollowed wreck that none dare approach. In hushed whispers, the adventurers are warned away, but they forge on through thorn and thistle, through mud and muck, until the trees thin to wide places where the wind howls between, as if they too flee in fear of what may come from the ever-blackening sky. There our few heroes stand within sight of that decrepit wreck, blood frozen and muscles tensed at the yawning maw of its hellish gate under a starless sky. The night deepens and the wind howls behind. Eyeless, inky windows watch as these unhappy few venture onward, into the gate and down, down, down beyond all fated warnings of tongue and stone. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Now, let's stop and think. A little of what I have just done is world building. Some of it was storytelling, certainly, with a minor amount of characterization, but real world building, actual world building, is more the who, what, where, when, why that forms the structure within which stories occur. with a little of the how left for the experience of actually reading or listening to the story itself. Even a lore summary is a kind of storytelling, but it's mostly based around giving you a sense of that structure, the general contours. In a sense, that kind of storytelling is a story about a story almost. Not in a documentary sense, but as a background. If I open a story with "Once upon a time in the land of Dragon Song," you might have questions about that land beyond just its name. Worldbuilding's role in writing is actually mostly crack-filling. Whatever things happen in said land of Dragon Song as the events of the story unfold will inevitably contain some nods to that setting and certain ideas in it, or things in it, and from this you will get a sense of that world. That sense, as well as how you get it, is world building in practice. So, why are so many people obsessed with world building? Well, when you're a writer, especially of fantasy, science fiction, or anything in between, in short, when you are a writer of the fantastical, you often begin with a fantastical idea. Your quest to fill in the gaps created by the idea in your imagination with a whole tapestry of color leads to innovation and inspiration. It's a thrilling process. It's mostly good as a point of reference for you, the writer. You are going to write that story, aren't you? You are writing it, right? That's not just a weird hypothetical that you came up with and then did nothing with, I assume, because that would mean, as a writer, you're really operating on the level of that one friend that we've all had who asks you weird hypotheticals. Dude, would you rather be a cat, but you're so fat you can barely walk? Or would you rather be a dog, but you're like one of those annoying little dogs that old women carry in their purses? I don't know, man. This feels like a dumb conversation. But
You don't say! Like, fucking...
World building's so easy to fucking describe. It is literally building the world in which your story is set in. So you're making sure that the rules of the world are consistent. You've got your structures of the kingdoms that you're in or the countries that you roam. Why there's bandits on this road here. Oh yeah, why is that? Well, because Jerry the Limp Biscuit or whatever it is, bandit, is a criminal and we're after him. The sheriff of the local town is after him. And then what you do is there's little lore dumps of like, well, the sheriff came in there in one dragon 26 or something, and this and this. It's simple things of if someone wants to look up and it's like, oh well, there was a war 20 years ago, and you get told who won that war, or why is this town the town is built here, and you go like, well, there's farms here to feed the village, and this is the Grand Bank, and this is the cathedral, and blah blah blah. It's just building the foundations of the world so things make sense.
So in other words, it's exposition.
Yeah.
Hawke, you literally just said it all in 1 fucking minute that took Chariot fucking 3. Fucking...
Well, I'm not trying to pad out a video for advertisement.
Yes. Oh my fucking god. Anyway, moving on.
But I value our friendship, so I guess the cat? Probably I'd be the fat cat.
How much you want to bet that Chariot's fat in real life?
I don't attack people from physical appearances. I'm just wondering why he thought to add a whole hypothetical conversation about a friend, cats and dogs in a game about a video about world building.
Yes. Anyway.
That's
my point is, if you're following me, that for a fantastical writer, world building is a useful exercise, but it's also not the only or even the chief thing of which stories are made. In my example moments ago, I asked you to imagine a group of people. Who are those adventurers? What are their names, their appearances, their personalities? What are they adventuring for? What are their ambitions, their goals, their aspirations? I asked you to place them in a setting. Where is that haunting castle specifically? How far away from the town is it? When is this story taking place? Are these characters trekking through the fall leaves, the summer, the winter snow, or the spring flowers? And who lives in that castle anyway, or else why is it there? Knowing these facts, or discovering or creating if you prefer, can be world building, but drawing your reader in to make them care and walk them through the whole ordeal, that is telling them the story. Yes. That is why I say sometimes we experience world building as stories about stories, or why I call it the who, what, where, when, why process. The phrase world building is also, I have to admit, a bit up its own ass. Like a lot of the ways that writers or non-writers talk about writing, it kind of wants to be grandiose or provocative. I wouldn't say sitting down at a computer with yet another cup of homebrewed coffee that I've allowed to turn cold and hammering away at my mechanical keyboard with fingers a little too cold to be comfortable and a little too in my flow now to want to get up and go get a pair of gloves or a sweater ever makes me feel.
What the fuck are you on about?
I've got to stop being pretentious. Oh my God.
Yes.
Right. Jesus Christ. Listen. You know when Tolkien created Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, he did world building in that.
Yes.
He had an idea of the world so things would flow and fit naturally, so you would never question why things happened.
Mm-hmm.
Even Martin has done world building in his books to know why the world is doing what it's doing. Dragon Age world building gives you the basics of there is this land and there are darkspawn, and because of the hubris of man, the darkspawn were created, and they could turn up every so often, and you have to be fought back by Grey Wardens. Right? That's the basis of like. So you've got the basis of the plot and also the basis of the world
It's
there.
it's
So
the
you know
sales
that whatever
pitch.
whatever nations or peoples or groups, they have to deal with this darkspawn situation. So you're like, okay, that's the basis of it. You then go to, say, the human noble origins, and you go to the castle with the turn, with the Kuzlans and everything. And then as you play, you can learn about your family, you learn about bits and bobs about Ferelden culture and everything like that. And then as you keep moving through the story, you get more world building, and you start to understand, oh, well, Ferelden is this kingdom that gained its independence only 25 years earlier. So you're like, oh, right, so now I know that this nation that I've come in is quite new, you know, it's still gaining its feet, and then it keeps going and going. Then you meet the king, and you realise, oh, the king is only young, but he's still, blah blah blah, and it keeps building and building and building, and it goes along with the story.
Mm-hmm.
It is a natural progression, but you need that world building to understand why you're there in the story. Why do I care about these characters? I need to know of course I need to know the backgrounds of these characters. I need to know why I'm saving this place. But I also need to know how this world works. So, like with the Templars and the Mages, I need to know why the Templars do what they do to the Mages.
Yes.
I need to know why the Mages are locked up in towers and people are perfectly fine with it. I need to understand these things, and this is the world building that goes into the games.
And Hawke said it all without any flowery bullshit about cups of coffee gone cold. Anyway.
This guy's trying to be pretentious with his writing.
Yes.
I get it. Fantastic. Wonderful workmanship. Great. It's wonderful. He really builds a scene. It doesn't matter for world building here. Talk about it. Talk about the actual world building. Talk about why this world building's so good that it fails later on.
Yeah.
As in other games.
So in the words of Steve Martin, here's a thought. Have a point. Anyway. Yes.
At least not beyond an occasional, oh, that's a good turn of phrase, I'll use that, which I allow myself to briefly entertain before getting back to work. But listening to some cool music while imagining characters
Oh my
that I've
God,
written
he's
in
still
situations
on
I've
with
devised or
it!
have yet to devise does tend to make me feel that way. And so in my opinion, the process of actually writing the story is the process of disappearing any world building on my end, as an imaginative act into a concrete work whose aim is to provoke the same feelings that inspired me to imagine in the first place.
What?
The Planet Fitness Plan.
I don't even know what the hell that means.
I don't know. Like if you're not interested in world building and you don't think it's the most important thing, you're gonna find people not interested in your stories.
Yes.
Because without world building, you're not even creating a world in which these people exist in, and it has to be a consistent world in which they exist in. Otherwise, people are not gonna care.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, when we enter a critical posture as we engage with a work written by another, we have to reverse engineer this understanding of the world being built for our benefit. This means that before we ever criticize world building, we should first interest ourselves in its comparatively less romantic but far more instructive sister concept, storytelling. How to tell a story, how to really go about telling that story, and how to understand a story that is being told.
Oh, hey, Hawke, speaking of, like, playing on consoles versus PC, Chariot is playing on console. Oh my god.
Is a complex topic.
I played Origins on console. It's not
Same.
difficult.
Same, but
So...
anyway.
Is a complex topic which has acquired contributions from legendary ancient Greeks like Aristotle to ignominious internet posters of no renown and mixed acumen. When we talk
I wonder who Chariot's referring to there.
Yeah, I've no idea.
No, I don't know. I'm stumped anyway.
about good writing and bad writing, storytelling should rightfully be a first and highest order concern. Where world building enters that conversation is in how world building decisions, which are finalized through storytelling, can then shape the contours of that story in powerful ways. This is the source of our problem. I'd like to make one more detour into the process of discussing the issues around world building as a concept in gaming and in writing. In Against World Building and Other Provocations, in the essay Against World Building for which the book is named, originally published as an article for GamesIndustry.biz in 2017, Alexis Kennedy lays out the broad territory of the subject in sympathetic terms. Quote, I just invented a world. It's run by a nation that has 11 emperors. The nation's under attack by a race of four-armed, red-skinned bipeds who have electricity powers. Travel through the empire is exclusively by canal, with narrow boats drawn by steam horses. The culture is vaguely Russian, magic only works when it's raining, food is traditionally eaten raw. That's nothing like anything else out there, but I doubt you'll remember it tomorrow. It doesn't connect to anything, and it doesn't connect to itself. I've chosen a deliberately jarring set of ideas, but the effect is the same when a game is set in not Vienna, because it's got ice magicians, under attack by not the Turks, because they ride zebras. If it's basically the Turks and basically Vienna, riff off them directly, or hell, just set it in Vienna. If it's something else, work out what the something else is and put it front and center. If your world is no more complicated than these are the enemy, this is why you care, then you don't need to invent centuries of detailed history. If the world is more complicated, then great. You sure as hell need to focus on the reasons why the player should negotiate the complexities. It's easy to write a timeline. It's hard to make a timeline interesting. We're stuck with world building as a term. It's bedded in, and one grumpy column by one mid-ranking games writer isn't going to start a revolution. But next time you hear it, remember that the quality of a story setting is measured not on its expansiveness, but its distinctiveness. Tolkien, as usual, has the best words. Parenthetically, and don't you admire how he finds a way out of all those commas when a sentence really should pile up at the end like a drugged centipede? Quote, It is the mark of a good fairy story, of the higher or more complete kind, that however wild its events, however fantastic or terrible its adventures, it can give to one child or man that hears it when the turn comes, a catch of the breath, a beat and lifting of the heart, near to, parenthetically, or indeed accompanied by, tears, as keen as that given any form by literary art and having a peculiar quality, end quote. Think for a moment about the worlds you've loved in games. Every one of them will have a moment with that quality. It may be scavengers playing acoustic guitar around a fire, it may be the way backstory clicks into place, it might be the emotional undertone of an invented proverb, it might be the tilt of a ringed planet against the night, but it won't be a timeline, end quote.
Okay, how much do we agree with that fucking part?
Not a lot. So the idea that a timeline means nothing is silly.
Yes.
Because, especially in a fantasy like this, people enjoy the timelines of things, so they know where they fit in the history of the world. It's nice to know that, it's nice to flesh out the backgrounds of stuff. Like the timeline, say, take Dragon Age 2, for instance. So there's quite a bit done about lineage and legacies and like the history, because obviously it takes place over such a long time period. It takes over 7 years. And it builds into it like to understand why the current Viscount acts the way he does, you have to look back at history and see what happened to the previous Viscount who did anything. He was removed and executed by the current head of the Templars in Kirkwall, Meredith. And so that leads into why the current Viscount doesn't do anything to like stop Meredith. And so that's the timeline being useful and the world building being useful to explain characters' motivations and reasons why certain people get away with certain things. With the origins, the timeline is obviously telling you about Loghain helped Marek lead Ferelden to victory against the Orlesians in a war 25 years ago. And then the timeline's like how Ferelden's built up. And you can use that information and knowledge to help you in the game to understand why people act the way they are. To say that timelines are just boring and people forget about it, well, that's not true with stuff like that. Even games that had very little story. I mean, even Gears of War had the famous 14 years after E-Day. So people started, asking questions about, what the hell's E-Day? What you mean 14 years and stuff? And then the timeline helped people build a better idea of the world at which the Gears of War series was in. So yeah, world building is incredibly, incredibly important for every game. If you do not build your world correctly, your game's going to falter.
Yes. Anyway.
So.
Well said, Alexis. I, in particular, love
Not really, no.
the nod to
No,
J.R.R.
that's just
Tolkien.
he's just said, oh well, no one pays any attention about the world. Lord of the Rings is all about the world, which is used as an example. Tolkien goes into pages upon pages of describing the world in which the people are existing in, down to like minute details. So you can't just say, well, Tolkien didn't care about the world building. He invented an entire language.
Yes.
He created an entire language and an entire history of the entire world of Middle Earth. So yeah, he knew how everything worked, and people read the flipping history books of Lord of the Rings. Like people buy the history books of like the Dragon Age series before obviously everything went to hell. People buy the history of books. So it's like, so history is important, and a fictitious history which is really fleshed out, really well written, can entertain people for hours. So.
Oh yeah.
On fairy stories, which for the uninitiated is a lovely essay about fantasy literature, the writing process and all which compels us throughout our experience with such things. These words, I think, ring true even in this context. Kennedy's sentiment does not appear to me to mean do not world build, but instead he seems to be saying approach storytelling with intentionality. These are
What does that even fucking mean? Approach storytelling with intentionality? What the fuck?
If you create a fantastic world for which you can just insert any story you want, you've got gold. If you create a fantastic world where you've pretty much got every single nation's got a history, they've got all the politics sorted out, you've got all the religion sorted out, you've got the rights of people sorted out, you've got the behaviors of the people, why they would be, against other groups of people, why certain groups of people act away. If you've got all that set out, you can create whatever story you want in that world, and it will work because the foundation is there for the person to be interested in the world that they're saving or the world that they're living in, interested in the characters that they'll be interacting with, and be interested in the politicking, the behind the scenes stuff, the actual living and breathing world. If you just go, I'll make a really good story and then I'll think about the world. Well, then you'll start seeing people with plot holes, and then you'll start seeing people with, well, why are we doing that? Why are we doing this? So
Yep.
that's one of the reasons why world building is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically compatible views that nevertheless yield very different mindsets, like the earlier highlighted distinction between the acts of world building and storytelling. What Kennedy is pointing towards is closer to that which compels us, that which animates us, that which inspires us about games. This is why I have referred to world building as vanishing into the writing process, only to be reproduced in terms of its effect or feel in the reader, viewer, or player. This mirrored process is also fundamental to understanding world building in role-playing video games, because the player's choices in creating their character involve them in a very small part of the creation of that world. And so we return to Dragon Age Origins in all its wonderment. Experienced players will recall how the game begins, with an introductory quote leading into an introductory cinematic. These things do inspire, cascade of exposition be damned. Its visuals and narration do much of the work of inspiring the player to feel called by this strange new world. This teaser established the world of Dragon Age to every player who ever started up the game. But next comes character creation, and so much of what makes Origins unique and difficult in hindsight. Players can choose from one of many races and one of many backgrounds. You can be an elf or human mage in the Circle, a dwarven commoner, a dwarven noble, a Dalish forest elf, an elf in the alienage slums, or a human noble. Unlike with Inquisition, these backgrounds aren't purely characterization for role-playing in later scenes. They're actually playable portions of the game and contain some very strong writing. The Mage's Circle, Dwarven Noble, and Elvish Alienage Origins are probably my favorites, but each is a complex narrative dealing in matters
What was his
portions of the game and contains some very strong writing. The Mage's Circle, Dwarven Noble, and Elvish Alienage Origins are probably
Oh geez, okay, so the mage, the dwarven noble, and the city elf are his favorites. Hawke, what do you make of that?
Good Origins.
Mm.
My personal favourite is obviously the human noble.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because you have such a connection to All-How, the secondary villain of the game. And your family's...
How is really fucking evil. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, and obviously How's betrayal is also part of Logain's plan against you. So you're personally affected by it. But no, they're all good. They're all a lot better than whatever Inquisition tried to do.
Yeah.
Which was nothing.
Yeah.
So
my favorites, but each is a complex narrative dealing in matters of spirituality, class, or race, and sometimes more than one at once. You can see how
so fucking Chariot is real big into like the fucking I don't know, that shit. Like just the fact that like what he said. Yeah, what?
Go on, try and say what you're gonna say.
He's really big into the fucking social justice shit. I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. No, that's true, and there's a lot of that in the Elven City Elf origin. Not too much of it in the Dwarven Noble one, but okay. No, but the thing is, each section, each origin, the origin, by the way, is to build like the world. So you can be part of it. You know, each origin is part of the world building.
Yeah. I think Chariot's least favorite is the human noble, because like, you're just born into all this money and you have tons of privilege and shit, man.
Which is weird because Dwarven Noble is actual royalty.
Yes.
He's one of the king's sons.
Human noble is just like boring. Is like just for the white people and shit. Anyway.
Players who got used to trying all of these options would be let down later in Dragon Age 2 or even Dragon Age Inquisition. It's certainly a strong start for the series, although some origins originally written for the game were cut for time. That's likely why we didn't see this return. It's a lot of divergent writing to try to work back into one story.
Not really, since they all eventually bottleneck into the main story.
Yeah, you come across the results of every other origin. It's pretty much saying that without Duncan, each other origin dies. So the city, okay, you go through the human noble one. I'm just saying that because that's one of the main ones I do. You come across the body of a dwarf commoner origin. So you come across his body. The dwarf noble
Vraska.
dies in the deep.
Idekin.
Yeah. The dwarf noble dies in the deep roads. The city elf dies in the riots.
Is it Tabris? Or is it
Something
else?
like that. Yeah, but
Okay.
they die in the riots in the alienage. The Dalish origin, they get tainted with the darkspawn and die.
I don't remember that last name. Anyway, go on.
Tamlin.
Tamlin.
Tamlin's the friend. I can't
Yeah.
remember what the name is of it. It's a Danish thing. And the mage gets turned into an abomination during the Mage Tower mission.
Yeah.
So that's what happens to the other origins. So it does go back into it. Yeah, meld back into the story. And obviously, if you do any other origins outside the human noble, the human noble dies at the Castle Kuzlan's battle.
Mm-hmm.
And all the Kuzlans get wiped out apart from his brother, Fergus.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
So,
It's great for creating a character and world building, sure, but to make it relevant, you then need a story that revisits these characters, locations, and ideas in some meaningful way. Origins does this, of course, but imagine having to write every Dragon Age game around that core conceit. Inquisition has a comparably easier structure where the player can visit different locations when they find it convenient and explore them at their leisure, or visit them when the main storyline takes them through the area and skip as much side content as they like. The Origins approach works, but it would be an awkward constraint if the developers needed to write within it every time. Here's your possible beginning.
Well, I don't know, Hawke, do you agree with that? I don't know, it just seems like...
No, I mean, they made Awakenings afterwards, which is an expansion, using the same Warden character.
Mm-hmm.
And they even wrote in, so, yeah, after so long, you're just known as the hero for Elden, and your origin really doesn't matter that much anymore because you've made a name for yourself. So, yeah, if the series had carried on going with that character, they wouldn't have had to worry about that.
Yep.
Beginnings, each point on your quest will revisit these in a way that makes the story specially relevant to you, and so on. It's a great idea for a game, and in fact one can imagine the draw of having not only the player but the companions in their party come from these backgrounds. It would be a little bit easier to replicate if the beginning and middle were the only challenge. The ending is also a problem. Dragon Age Origins lays the foundation for the rest of the series, but the choices made by the player have vast consequences for the world. At least, that's the expectation. In reality,
I mean, I wouldn't really say vast in terms of like the scale of the consequences and their...
Well, you've got, who do you choose as the new King of Orzammar? And you're like, oh, is it Balin or Harrimont? Okay, so that's that. Dragon Age 2 deals with that anyway. Do you destroy the Anvil of the Void? Like, okay, well, that doesn't really matter much anyway, because the only person who can really use it tops themselves.
Yeah.
Branka or Caradin. You stop the Darkspawn under the 5th Archdemon. Okay, that's fine. Doesn't really change much. Do you side with the werewolves or not? So either a Dalish clan is wiped out, or the werewolves are wiped out, or the werewolves are cured. So, okay. All those are very easy to work with.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and who's and who's ruler of Ferelden? Yeah.
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 But all those are very easy to work with.
Yeah.
A lot of
You just have to be willing to put the time in and the effort in. And this is the issue with BioWare. They don't want to put the time and effort in.
They've gotten lazy, yes.
Yeah.
Of the next, especially because each game features a different character and mostly a different cast entirely. The consequences we anticipate.
It's like
That's Jesus Christ. The reason for that is when they created Dragon Age 2, they wanted to make Hawke the main character of the series. So Hawke would have been the Commander Shepard of the Dragon Age series.
plus Dragon Age 2 was initially planned to be a spin-off, but was then
A
turned
spin-off,
into
yes.
a mainline game, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the poor sales of that though made BioWare decide, well, it's obvious that people want new heroes each time. It's like, no, we don't want new heroes each time. It's just the fact that you rushed a game out and it wasn't good.
Yes.
So now they create a new hero each time, so it's new characters, and the issue is you're having to introduce characters to older stuff repeatedly for the first time. So it hinders your world building because you've got to pretend that these characters don't know the world because they're supposedly new players. When in reality, it's mainly people who are playing all these games have played the first one and played the second one, and then we're playing the third one. But because of the way BioWare thinks, you end up with a stagnant world building because you're having to retread over stuff.
Yeah.
It's like
No, go ahead.
players who being introduced to Varric, you're given a dump on Varric's history, when in reality everyone knows about Varric because they've played Dragon Age 2. So instead of building on his character moving forward because everyone knows him, you've got to scale him back to square one again because you've created a new hero. Whereas if you'd use, say, Hawke again for Inquisition, you wouldn't need any of that.
Yeah, I don't.
So,
yeah, Hawk, I get what you're saying, but like, I don't think it's necessarily I don't think it's stagnant. I think it's repetitive, certainly. And I get what you're saying, but like, I get what you're saying.
The reason it's repetitive is because it is stagnant. That's the issue.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's
So
like
it merges together of and I know this because obviously I play these games repeatedly, and I actually recently played all three of them through with my my missus, and even she was saying I'm fed up of meeting the same people that I already know, like it's the first time.
yeah.
I know all this stuff about these people. I've played all the games. Stop treating me like I don't know who this character is.
Yeah, Hawk, I get what you're saying, but you also have to remember, like, the bit of, like, the in-universe reasons. It's like these new characters are just meeting the older characters. You also have to consider that a bit.
Yeah, I understand that, but also what I'm saying is the reason for them doing that is because of this, the bad sales of one game made them change their strategy, and the world building suffered from it. Because what you've got now is you're having to make a new person repeatedly, and there's no like look at Inquisition to Veilguard. They made Rook, and you then have to try and explain who Solus is again
Yeah.
to Rook for there to be any connection, instead of just keeping the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
All because we have to have a new hero. Well, no, you don't have to have a new hero. So instead of being obviously it's a direct sequel to Inquisition, but you've got to retread over old stuff from Inquisition again because your new character shouldn't know anything. But because you're an older player, you already know all this, and you just treat it to the same repetitive stuff over and over and over again.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. One thing I will say is that it certainly does just bloat the fucking setting with characters and whatnot up, because now not only do you have to introduce new characters, but you also have to like keep track of the older ones that were in the previous game, and then if they make a fucking Dragon Age 5, not only do they have to keep track of the older characters from the first 3, but now the characters from the last game, and then the new characters they introduced in the potential 5th game. It certainly has that problem.
It's like someone pointed out, and I've also pointed out. By the time Veilguard came round, you have a possibility as the hero for Elden, Hawke, and the Inquisitor all alive at the exact same time, and nobody wants to use them.
Yes.
and you're supposed to tell, oh, there's a world-ending threat, but you've got 3 heroes who can end that threat straight away. Plus, on top of that, you've got Alistair Morrigan, Sten, Ogren, maybe Anders, Aveline, Fenris, Varric, Iron Bull, Cassandra. All that you've got, what, nearly 30 odd people. You know, you have an actual army of characters who can stop threats, and you're telling me that we're meant to think, oh, you know, we're at the end, you know, oh, the world's in danger. No, there's numerous people now.
Veilguard
So,
should have been like Dragon Age All-Stars, where it's like all these
yeah, pretty
old
much,
characters coming back. Oh my
yeah.
god.
Honestly, that would have been actually a really good idea, but
Yes.
they didn't want to do that.
Anyway.
So the one character they brought back, they just killed straight away.
Varric,
So,
yes. And then fucking Morrigan, Isabella, and like they show up like once, and then they're pieced out. So yeah.
and because they have no connection, because the game has no connection to the previous 3 games, they don't talk about what happened in the previous games.
Yeah.
So that's affected world building, because now no one knows where it fits in. The irony of it, right, the massive irony of Veilguard, and I keep saying this, is they tried so hard to disconnect it from the series because they thought they were superior writers and it'd be a massive reboot, that you could easily, for Dragon Age 5, start it with the first scene where the Varric's taken on talking to Solus, and him closing a book and going, "No, that's terrible. This is how it actually happened."
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually retcon the entirety of Veilguard out of existence because of its lack of connection to the rest of the series.
Yep. Anyway.
Are often underwhelming. This was a massive piece of criticism towards Mass Effect 3, another BioWare title, and its ending. Origins doesn't have this problem in such an obvious way, because it's writing a check that will bounce when the next games hit. We can pick the successor to the throne, but it changes very little. We barely even see the future kings or queens, let alone feel their influence on the world. Our character can even die in the end, but it doesn't matter if we play things out such that they survive or whether they die heroically. The hero of Ferelden vanishes into history either way. In Dragon Age Inquisition, the player has to make an important choice. It's not the kind of choice that changes the fate of the world, but rather the fate of 2 characters. Stroud and Hawke stand with the player and their party in the Fade, and one...
Alright, hang on, Hawke. Before he gets too deep into this point here, I just want to say it's like so. I basically, from what I got from his prior point, is that it's like, oh, the future games don't touch on your older choices enough. It's like, and to that I say, they don't necessarily need to. They only need to bring them up when relevant to the plot or side quest or whatever, and then they can reference them in. You know, Hawke? Like, Hawke, I'm not, like, they use this stupid-ass excuse to not bring the save import system back for Veilguard, where they're all like, oh, it's like the world states are all way too different, and the combinations are so insane that they can't keep track of them. It's like, no, they don't need, that. Like, I'm not expecting every single choice I made in the past 3 games to impact the game. You know what I'm saying, Hawke? Like, I'm not expecting the choice I made in the Brazilian forest of the elves versus werewolves to have an impact on Veilguard's plot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You could, but the thing is, you can easily just put that into Codex.
Yes.
Lore. So you can easily it's just typing it out, and all you have to do is replace a few words with stuff. So you can do that. But again, it boils down to laziness. If with Dragon Age, if you want an overarching story, unfortunately, you can't be having all these separate heroes doing separate things because it makes so many different choices and results and everything like that. They struggled with Mass Effect because even though supposedly it was an overarching story with one protagonist, they just couldn't be bothered to implement all the choices. They'd give you these choices and be like, "Oh no, this doesn't. No, we're not. We're just cutting it off."
Plus, they did
Well,
not plan 2 games ahead.
oh no, supposedly they planned from day one how the trilogy was going to end. It did, instead, it was 2 people locked in the room with a napkin.
Yeah.
A single piece of paper.
Yeah, Hawk. Yeah, Hawk.
But,
I get what you're saying. Yeah, like when I say like plan ahead, I mean like they planned ahead. Like they planned ahead on like how every story beat would affect every future story beat. I mean like plan the fuck ahead. Like I have a spreadsheet with Evan, and I planned ahead on like a lot of shit. But yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest decisions in Mass Effect is who will be the human counselor. So is it Captain Anderson or Udina? And you're like, oh, most people chose Captain Anderson. Keep in mind, and then come Mass Effect 3, they said, oh, it's Udina because Anderson just gave up. And you're like, even when most people chose it, and it is the most common choice, you just still couldn't be bothered with it because it didn't fit your story. So why give us that? Why give us that choice in the first place if you were gonna just ignore it anyway?
Yeah. Anyway.
And this is the thing that I'm talking about with what happened with Dragon Age. Dragon Age 2 tried its best to keep going with the world building and the choices you made in small little ways. The best thing they did was they moved it to Kirkwall away from Ferelden, so it didn't, like you say, it didn't really affect that much, apart from a few cameos and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Inquisition, the issue came with we went back to Ferelden.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we need to see 10 years later what our choices did, and they just couldn't do it. And then Veilguard, even though they took us up to Tevinter, still had a lot of stuff to do with Ferelden and Orlais. So you had to, and because it was a direct sequel to Inquisition, people were expecting, well, loads of stuff from Inquisition must come through, and it's like, no, it didn't happen like that.
Yeah. Fucking Christ.
An important choice. It's not the kind of choice that changes the fate of the world, but rather the fate of 2 characters. Stroud and Hawke stand with the player and their party in the Fade, and one must make a heroic stand against the demons in order for the others to escape. I have 2 quibbles with that scene. First, it feels...
Okay, Hawk, Hawk, are there any legit quibbles with that scene?
Well, in his description, it's only Hawke and Stroud, but Alistair and Loghain can be there, depending on your previous choices. So those are choices you can make in Dragon Age Origins, which will affect who stood next to Hawke. The only quibble I get from the entire thing is why it was even necessary for this to happen.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear what he's got to say.
Odd that none of the companions can be the ones to make the sacrifice. Obviously, the player can't be the one to do it, but it feels weird that no one else can either. Second, and this is the important one, it's extra odd that Stroud is here at all. The way he's introduced as a key figure among the Grey Wardens, I thought we were going to meet my Dragon Age Origins character in this game when I played it on stream, but no, it's Stroud.
I would hate to watch his fucking stream, Hawk. Oh my
Right,
god.
well, see, the thing is, Stroud is there if Alistair is King of Ferelden and if Loghain is dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, if Alistair is still a warden, you'll be meeting Alistair to deal with it, and Stroud's not there. If somehow you manage to make it so that Alistair's king and Loghain's still alive in the wardens, Loghain will be there. So you've got 3 different choices of people. Now, Stroud comes from Dragon Age 2. He's the one who takes Hawke's brother or sister to the Grey Wardens, if that option is chosen. And then he's later seen during the Qunari attack in Act 2, right at the end. So he's got a little bit of a background from Dragon Age 2. But really, he's just a placeholder in case Alistair or Loghain aren't there to be in the scene.
Yeah.
Who is Stroud? He's a pretty nice guy, a Grey Warden, and...
Didn't you play Dragon Age 2? Like, come on!
An otherwise unremarkable character. I feel like I'm roasting my
I mean,
man for no reason, but I never sacrifice Hawke here. I barely remember meeting Stroud.
I mean, to be fair, the game heavily weighs itself against you sacrificing Hawke. So, like, why would you? But, like,
I can understand. I can understand the choice if it was like, well, when it's Alistair and Hawke, because that's two actually well-liked characters. They're going against each other. It's your previous player character and a fan favorite companion. So that's difficult. But yeah, if it's Hawke and Stroud, Stroud goes every single day.
yeah.
If it's Hawke and Alistair, well, you don't know. And if it's Hawke and Logain, well, it just depends on what you want to do. Do you want to see Logain get redemption, or do you want to see him? Well, he gets redemption either way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like
the only issue is after the sacrifice, the surviving person leaves the story forever.
and then
So
dies in the south. Yeah.
yeah, well, but the thing is, it's like to rebuild the wardens, they go to Weishaupt, and you're like, why are you going there? You've got to rebuild here. And then Hawke, even though he's the one who accidentally released Corypheus and goes, oh, I need to make up for my mistake and everything, if he survives, he just disappears. And you're like, well, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
I thought you'd be here for a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Age 2. To the degree he feels like an Easter egg for the sequel when I play through the second game these days. In comparison, Hawke is automatically more empathetic. I know who she is because she's me. Of course I want to live.
But you're a dude. What the hell, man?
Imagine if that scene could be a choice between Hawke and the hero of Ferelden. It would have so much more weight. I've heard that Alistair can be in that scene.
Okay, well, the hero Ferelden doesn't have voice
Wait, hang on.
acting.
You've heard that Alistair can be in that scene. Alistair isn't. Yeah, he can be in that scene. It's called the choices. It's one of the few times your choices actually matter.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's the few times that the world building comes into play.
God.
Oh
Which
my
is
God.
crazy, by the way, since there's several ways to kill him or ruin his life already. And so can Logain, which is equally crazy, and his scene goes insanely hard and makes me like him. Almost. But it feels like
Almost. What the hell?
most people never get there. It's almost always between Stroud and Hawke, which means Stroud is sentenced to death in almost every playthrough. It's a meaningful choice that is made less so by a conceit of design.
That's just the players being good at the game, alright? I don't know what to tell ya.
Yeah, the players just go, well, I don't want to sacrifice Alistair, so what I'll do is I'll make him king in Origins.
Mm-hmm.
Sorted. That's it. That's the only decision that matters with it. You can't blame. You also making Alistair king in Ferelden. It's also his like almost birthright.
Yes.
So it goes with his story to become king. I don't know what to I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that for one time, BioWare did something interesting, but unfortunately they had to have somebody in the role of the warden if Alistair and Logain weren't there, because they were too lazy to put the hero Ferelden in.
Yeah.
This is always it's too difficult to put it in. It's like no, it's not too difficult to put it in. Just put the character in, give him a generic voice, choose any of the voice actors who did the generic battle cries and Origins to voice them, and that's it.
Oh,
Sorted.
well, that would upset players who didn't imagine their warden having that voice. Huh?
Yeah, okay, you can just ignore it.
Yeah. Oh my god, anyway.
The hero of Ferelden is made more obsolete in these later games, but it's because of the first game's writing. There are so many...
Really? The warden becomes obsolete in later games because of the first game's writing? Come on.
No, they are made obsolete because BioWare are just lazy. They just can't be bothered to. They could easily have made more and more games with the same text-based stuff. Well, no one's going to complain about it. It'd just be a silent protagonist that you talk through. No one would have cared at all. But
Anyway.
Many potential outcomes, so many player choices to account for, that continuing the world means ignoring what are increasingly its most relevant qualities to the player. It's BioWare's core franchise writing problem all over, but it started here.
Really? No. No.
Right, so okay, the Warden can die at the end of Origins. Okay, so you've done that story. That's that person's story. That's that character's story done. The Wardens that survive have other stories. Like there's other stories after Origins involving the Warden. You have Awakening, Golems of Amarak, Witch Hunt, which are extra stuff. So I don't understand. So you can carry on the story. You could have made a Dragon Age 2 with the Warden easily, and it doesn't negate any story where the Warden dies.
Yeah.
In other words, Dragon Age Origins has a world-building problem. It's not a problem with its specific world-building, it's a problem with the way the concept affects the writing going forward.
This isn't a problem with the world building. This is a problem with the choices and the fact that BioWare's too lazy to work with them.
Yeah, yes. The whole thing boils down to BioWare couldn't be bothered to put effort in to the world that they created, and just wanted to streamline everything to make it just press the A button, something awesome happened.
Oh my god.
That's how it became. You can't blame the world building for this.
Is this another
And it's not a problem.
Is this another video with a misleading title by Chariot?
Trust me, if you gave me a year to write up a story for Dragon Age to continue the story, I could easily do it with the world. It wouldn't be because the world building's difficult. I could easily do it. It would just be I'd have to put some extra time in making sure people's choices were respected.
Yeah.
That's it.
Word.
Give me 10 years and all the money that BioWare got for Veilguard, and I could make you a game on par with Origins.
Hitting pieces of writing in Origins are things like being abandoned in the deep roads as the Dwarven Noble, or cutting up disgusting human nobles as an alienage elf. And from beginning to end, it's a compelling story to experience. But there's a reason stories like this don't come along every day. It's not just that it's so good that it's hard to pull off, it relies on a distinct design philosophy that takes extra contorting in the process, and has real repercussions down the line. Maybe that's why our memories of it are so fond, after all.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's like, again, it's like, no, that's bruh, it's like every single point we have can be answered with, BioWare is just lazy, no.
Yeah. Like, so, from start to finish, it's like, yeah, you can have the whole story of the Warden in Origins. Well, then you can continue the story, and it's quite easy to continue the story. In fact, it's quite fun doing Awakenings with your Warden, because you can literally convince people to jump off a cliff rather than fight you because of all the stuff you've done.
Mm-hmm.
You become a badass. You literally become like, I'm the Great Warden. I'm the hero for Elden. Do you think you can take me? And some bloke goes, no, and jumps off a cliff. Like,
yeah. I think his problem is this is like he wants I don't think that's necessarily Chariot's problem. I think Chariot just wants like this fucking like game world where every choice you make just vastly alters it into like something completely different. I think that's just what he wants, and that's entirely unfeasible.
it is in a way, but then I also think it is probably possible with, like I say, 10 years worth of development. You could do something like that. If say Dragon Age 2 had 10 years worth of development, I think you could have seen something where all your choices from the previous game mattered. It's just the fact that EA wants things churned out a lot quicker. And then obviously it soon progressed into BioWare, like we've said before, BioWare becoming incredibly lazy and not wanting to put the effort in.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite simple to keep all your choices relevant. Other games have done it, so
Yeah.
All right, everybody. This
Also, dead ass.
has been a fun video about video games and about writing.
Oh no, it has not. Do not lie.
I love writing about.
there's nothing. No offense, Chariot. There was nothing here.
Yes.
I'm sorry to say that. The arguments about world building boil down to, well, I like to write myself, and I don't find world building important. And BioWare doesn't like follow-up choices. It's like, right, okay, that's not world building. That's just laziness. So.
About writing. I love talking about writing with you guys, and I love sharing stuff like this. I do
Oh my god, if you love sharing, then please keep it to yourself.
plan on making more videos talking about the
No,
Dragon
carry
Age
on. Let's just finish this video off, because I know it's near the end.
It feels like I was a little harsh with Origins. It's
yeah, really harsh with your fucking soft ass voice. Yeah, sure.
No, he wasn't even harsh with it. It boiled down to, well, the Inquisition didn't really follow up most of the stuff of Origins. It's like, yeah, we all realised that in 2014.
It's just because I've had to play through a bunch of it to get footage for some of these videos, and it's it's got some.
Really, you played through them? Because you've only shown like the fucking Brazilian Forest segment, the Ostagar segment from Origins, and I think that's about it. I don't think we've seen anything from the other 3 games. So no, I call BS on this.
There's nothing even of like the Mage Tower, the Deep Roads, the dealings with the Landsmeet. But oh well, yeah. So, let's just hear it. Let's just finish it off.
Yeah. So basically, he played through. He got to at least Flemeth's hut. He went straight to the Brazilian Forest, and he said, "All right, I'm done." That's basically it.
Parts that you can kind of feel how dated it is. Great game though, to be honest. If you're looking for RPGs to play, I totally recommend this series because, wow. Right? I mean, some of the moments will really hit you. And to be honest, it's kind of like Mass Effect, where you really want to play through the early ones so that you have context for the later ones.
Well, why the fuck would you even, like, play the later ones first? Like, that's just stupid.
So, starting with Origins, then going to Dragon Age 2, going to Dragon Age Inquisition after that, and then eventually, I hear we're getting Dragon Age Dreadwolf. To Vinter, Solus, lots of fun stuff on the horizon.
Oh no!
I love listening to old Dragon Age videos with people so excited for Dreadwolf.
That didn't age so well
for this series. I do want to talk a ton more about really personal ideas and feelings that I have about the writing.
Oh god, let's just talk about our feelings
here. These games, because I think out of every RPG series, Dragon Age probably affords some of the most interesting writing conversations. So we will be returning to this topic in the future.
Oh,
I will agree with that. I will agree with that. It does bring up some interesting writing conversations.
Alright, but I am dreading, like, what exactly Chariot will make of those said topics.
This video was originally produced for my patrons at patreon.com, so thank them if you're watching it much, much later. And if you are one of them, and you're watching this when it first comes out, I guess I hope you're pleased that you didn't have to wait months and months for it.
Motherfucker, this video took an entire fucking year to get uploaded. It's like, fucking Christ.
Because who knows? I mean, I can hold on to some Patreon exclusive videos forever. Some of them I end up releasing down the line. But mostly I try to keep things under wraps for a few months. So, yeah, I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this. I'm just kind of rambling here at the end.
You don't say.
Fill it out a little bit and hopefully make sure that
you've got to get to the 10-minute mark. Come on.
for being a little bit rude
Make it snappy.
about this really good video game that everybody likes, that everybody says is the best. It's the best one. It's the best. You know, Dragon Age Inquisition. The beginning is kind of slow. Dragon Age 2. I mean,
beginning
oh my
is
God,
not
it's so
slow.
repetitive. Like the loops are really
Repetitive?
and,
What the
all this
hell?
other stuff.
Dragon Age 2 is repetitive, yes.
Yes, let's be real here. Yes, it's our favorite, but it's repetitive. Yes.
All the choices you can make, and you can do all these different things. And the start of Dragon Age Origins really hooks you in. Yeah, it's all very true. And you know, I totally get that. It's a great game. I just wanted to do a video about some of the challenges of writing such a great game like this and such a great game series. So until next time, you know, give the video a like.
Put on that.
Yes.
Comment. Tell me what you think. I am super fascinated. If you've played Origins, also definitely tell me what your favorite character origin is. Tell me who your favorite companions are, because maybe that'll come up in a future video. Maybe I will.
Oh, joy.
Until next time, everybody. Take care.
We don't talk about Zevran being gay in Dragon Age.
What
Oh
the
my
fuck?
god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Let's just round this shit out with looking at some fucking comments. What do we got here? Yeah, this video is originally produced by my Hire 2 patrons. I've been cooking a bunch of Dragon Age stuff over there. And now that some of it is about a year old, I'm excited. Yeah, you've cooked it so much, it's fucking burnt and stale.
Yeah, like, no offense, but Dragon Age is a dead series now, unfortunately.
Yes. Also, the reason why Origins comes across as something that couldn't work as future games is because at the time, the developers genuinely thought that the game would be only Origins. Obviously, yeah, that ended up being incorrect, but still, yeah, that's a good reason. That's a good point, yeah. Let's see, the HOF... I don't know.
Hero for Elden.
Okay, the Hero for Elden was actually intended instead of Stroud, but the idea was cut because, oh my god, because of the issue of giving a PC character who is mute, and the almost near infinite different ways folks role-played their Hero for Elden. Oy vey. I think the main point of it not being sustainable is also, like, very intentional. They didn't expect to really make this into a game series, so why not go all out on different origins and tie-ins with those origin stories, so each background you do feels a little special and grand consequences for each action you make. When you only can make one game, you don't have to account for, oh, how do we account for every potential outcome? And also, end video interaction, I like the City Elf the most. It was the first one I picked, and I don't know, the surprise of being kidnapped to be raped, and then to get to kill my would-be rapists. It was great. Second, probably Human Noble, because I really like role-playing her as a conniving social climber. If it wasn't for the fact that Honora stood in her way, they'd be great friends. Oh, I've also been looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Dragon Age. I could say I was not disappointed. Then you have very low standards. I look forward to your future videos on the series, especially your thoughts on DA2. 2 is probably my favorite. I really enjoyed the story. I found the companions really compelling. The repetitive maps and mob fighting definitely gave it a bad rep, and I don't knock anyone for thinking it's the weakest. Oh, thank you. I'm thinking of doing more complete videos in the vein of my radical retrospect. Oh, that'll be the day. On 2 and Inquisition. I do have, however, have 3 Patreon videos laid out about these games that are kind of a true that I'm calling, oh, fuck off.
Being gay in Dragon Age. Oh, wow.
Oh my god. We'll have to get to that shit, like, next week. Yes! That sounds awesome!
Next year.
Yeah. Yes, that sounds awesome. I'm big time looking forward to that. I think part of why I love the Dragon Age games so much is playing them while growing up and being able to have that representation and experience falling for different companions. Dragon Age 2 definitely played a part in my coming out journey. Oh dear god, seek professional help. I might just have to pull out my Xbox 360 and play those games again. Ha ha ha. Thank you for making and sharing this art, in big-ass quotation marks, art, with the world. I have been really enjoying your radical retrospective series. I probably watched your Halo Reach videos 3 or 4 times, and I've only ever played Halo Split Screen with friends. Every day we stray further from God. Alright. One more. I do love Origins, though, especially when not viewed in connection to the rest of the games. Dwarf Noble Origin is goated, and me and my boy Alistair, unhardened, please let him stay silly, will rock up to any party. Really sorry I accidentally turned him into a drunkard. Oh, that's your dumbass fault. Oh my god.
No, it is. To be honest with you, I now view the Dragon Age series as just Origins and 2,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So,
Oh yeah.
but
Why?
no, that whole being gay in the Dragon Age world should be an interesting one, because it's going to be filled with so much tinted glasses, and also viewing the world as if it was still still current day.
Oh my god.
Also, as I find with a lot of people who talk about being gay in Dragon Age, they bring up a codex entry about was it sexuality and fetus,
Yeah.
and people use it all the time without actually realizing that that codex entry only exists in Inquisition.
Hmm.
So it doesn't exist in the first game or the second game.
Very interesting. Well, anyway, guys, we have rambled on long enough. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment below stuff, subscribe if you want videos like this, and we'll see you guys next time in the backseat. Take care!